The Lilac Kingdom. 1. The moment the trees cleared, Mia took off across bronze hills, leaves trailing in her wake. The ground moved swiftly beneath her paws. The weeds that would have tripped her up a few weeks ago now only brushed her underbelly. Stones were cleared in a single leap. Mia had seen her mom bound across the ivy wood as if feathers sprouted from her paws. Now that freedom was Mia's. She sprinted to the top of a grassy hill, lifted a paw, and sniffed. She ran to the top of another and sniffed again. Her nose searched the grasses for her mom's apple-scented fur, but all she could smell was the tart scent of blushing leaves. Chill breezes loosed them from the branches, whirling and tumbling them into great rustling piles of yellow and orange. Autumn was even more beautiful than she'd hoped. It filled Mia's senses with more smells and colors than she'd dreamed possible. But her heart couldn't quite feel it. There was a bite in the air. The sun no longer warmed her fur. Her golden night day was only weeks away, the day she would have left the ivy wood to start a life of her own. She wasn't ready. Mia checked the mouth of the forest where Uli was just now hopping out. He'd shed his second coat, and his fur was growing bright red. She turned her nose northward and sniffed one last time. The air was itchy with leaf dust, but it was foxless. She returned to the forest edge. "What's your mom smell like?" Willie asked, nibbling a burr from one of his hind paws. "Like me, I guess," Mia said. Uli sniffed the breeze while she stifled a whimper. Her mom had told her to travel to the far side of the forest, but her mom wasn't there. Has she been captured by another trap? Mia swallowed. Has she gone to the baby bush to find a new kid? She shook the thought away, reminding herself that baby bushes weren't real. Mia scanned the hills stretching to the horizon, wondering where to search next. "Where's your home?" she asked Wooly. Achoo! He sneezed but didn't answer. Not for the first time, Mia suspected that he hadn't told her everything about how he'd come to be lost in the forest. Then again, she hadn't told him that her mom thought she was dead. She couldn't get her mouth to say the words. She turned her attention to the horizon. Her mom had told her to find a den, just like the one they'd had in the ivy wood, with sandy loam and a sipping creek and good cover for the entrance. If Mia could find a place that had all of those things, she might find her mom. She sniffed under her nose, caught a drying channel tucked between the hills. "Let's go through there. I'll keep us hidden from predators while we head north." Uli sniffed too. Oh yeah, that's the way I need to go anyway." The channel led them to a rocky scramble. Mia leaped up easily, pausing every so often to check on Uli, who was having trouble keeping his balance on the teetering rocks. "You got this," she called to him. He nodded, panting, and made another small hop. After a long, difficult climb, the sky reddened with dusk, and they arrived at the craggy shadow of a cliff that blocked their way northward. "Welp," Mia said, sniffing up and up. "That's inconvenient." Uli hopped next to her, out of breath. "It's a cliff, she said as kindly as she could. "I think you might be right. Wait here." She bounded up a slope that rose steeply to the east and sniffed the wide expanse of rolling hills. There were two ways they could go. Northwest, along a rocky path that curved around the base of the cliffs, or east, down a clear trail that wove between the hills. The way east looked more manageable for Uli's foreleg, but when Mia sniffed the hills, she caught a scent that made her eyes water. Gray wisps curled against the horizon, choking the sky with ash. Mia squinted through the haze and found great sections of hill cut with black pathways. Roads. She bounded back to the channel. "This way," she said as she passed Uli, following the cliff face west. "Fast." "What is it?" Uli said. "What you see." "Humans." He followed without any more questions. Clouds swept overhead, extinguishing the sunset. "We should find somewhere to sleep," Uli said. Mia nodded. Over the past few weeks, they'd become experts in finding safe hovels in the forest, but this land was open and had few places to hide. The most promising spots were thick with animal scent. As the sky faded from gray to rumbling black, they continued along the cliff's base as it gradually shrunk into the ground, opening onto a scraggly hill. At the top of the hill, great fiery clouds billowed, silhouetting black stones that towered toward the sky. Pretty, Mia said, her whiskers electric. The clouds flashed lightning teeth, and the sky cracked so loudly it seemed it might split in two. Uli's ear folded. That's pretty to you? Yeah, in a spooky sort of way. Mia bounded up the hill as raindrops started to fall. Come on, we can hide in that rock pile until the rain passes. Uli hesitated. I can't really do hills. Sure you can, she called back. It's just like the swamp, one paw at a time. Uli made a determined face and followed, climbing the hill in zigzags. Mia bounded up a few foxtails and then turned to watch her friend. Almost there, she sang brightly through the drizzle. Uli stopped to pant. Are you kidding? We're not even close. True, but we're almost there to part way there. Mia ignored Uli's grumbling and gazed through the rain, beyond the hilltop to where the black stones spread the sky. She sniffed, hoping for a whiff of apple, but instead she caught a smooth, intoxicating scent. She breathed deep, letting it stir her whiskers and make her fur stand on end. The sky rippled with thunder. Do you smell that? Mia called down the hill. It's like... Don't say peaches and sandy pits, Wooly said, taking another miserable hop. It didn't work the first time, and it's gonna... No, really! Sniff, sniff. It's like flower, like sniff, lilac. Wooly stopped climbing. He turned back and began his slow zigzags down the hill. Wait, Mia cried. Where are you going? He kept descending. Uli, stop! He looked over his shoulder, eyebrowing trembling. That's Mr. Scratch's scent. Mia perked her ears. She wasn't sure she'd heard him right through the rain. Who the squib is Mr. Scratch? Uli said. He's my dad. Mia quirked her head. That's a good thing, right? Uli shook his head. Mia's own father was a hazy memory, a musty scent that brought fresh kills to her and her siblings every morning when they were babies. She sniffed toward the top of the hill again, catching the lilac. Foxes marked the borders of their kingdoms using their family scent, Miss Fix had told her and her siblings. The smell is meant as a warning for other foxes. Keep away, or else. Mia also remembered what her teacher had said about staying away from strangers, but it was different when they were related to you, wasn't it? What dad would try to kill his own kid? No dad. That was who? Uli, we have to go this way, she called through the rain. My mom wouldn't have gone anywhere near the humans and their roads. The sky shuddered. The rain grew heavier. Uli couldn't stop shaking. Mia furrowed her brow. She could understand being afraid of a Golga thrush, but not of a dad. She wanted to grab Uli by the scruff and drag him up the hill, but that hadn't gone over very well in the swamp. She needed a different approach. She descended until she was just uphill of him. Your dad might have food for us. You love food. Uli's muzzle trembled. You don't know him. Mia started to walk. What did he do that was so bad? He hopped alongside her, searching the ground, as if debating something. He bit my sister. Ah, that's no big deal, Mia said, angling her paws under so slightly uphill. I bit my siblings all the time. Uli stopped. It was worse than that. I don't know. I'm not as good at telling scary stories as my sisters. You mean to tell me, Mia said, spinning around and continuing to climb backward. You are more afraid of your dad than you are a gurgle thrush? Uli scowled and hopped to catch up. Golga thrush. That's what I said. Kika thirst. The thing was way scarier, but we made it through together, right? She flipped around and continued at a trot. We'll be real sneaky. Your dad can catch both of us. Besides, look, you're almost to the top. Uli scowled when he realized she had led him in a diagonal up the hill. He flipped around and started hopping back down. A snarl rose in Mia's throat. Humans are that way! He stopped and hung his head. You think your dad is bad? She snapped. Miss Potter broke my mom's bow. She boiled off a fox's skin, then replaced his eyes with shiny rocks and stuffed him full of grass. That's what humans do. Uli shivered, rain dampening his coat. Thunder rumbled overhead. Uli, Mia said softly, please, I can't go back to the cage again. He met her eyes. And I can't face my dad again. They stared at each other. Raindrops dripped from their noses. Mia's heart made a tumble. So, I guess this is goodbye then? Lightning clawed the sky. The Woolly saw something behind her. His expression changed from shame to horror. Mia turned around. At first, all she could make out was a skull floating in the darkness, but then the shadows of its sockets crinkled. Its sweat will only serve as spice, the skull grumbled. Lightning flashed again, illuminating the creature's eyes, the sleek black hair of its paws, its back a mound of fur and muscle. Badger. Mia had only ever seen one from a distance, when Miss Fix had chased it away from the den. Its jaws could pop a kid's skull as easily as a gooseberry. The badger sucked rain through its gray teeth. Yes, a long climb's its mate, but its sweat will only spice its meat. 2. The badger lunged and head-butted Wooly, who went tumbling down the hill and flopped unconscious at the bottom. The badger muscled after him, but Mia clamped her teeth onto its stubby tail, her mouth filled with slimy foulness, but she yanked back with all her might. The badger roared and rounded, chomping into her throat. The pain was bigger than any Mia had ever felt. She tried to yelp, but the badger's jaw squeezed tighter, and Mia's breath stopped short. She kicked with her back paws and caught the badger's eye. Its jaws released. She tried to scamper away, but its fangs caught her by the tail. She heard the rip before she felt the sting. Her tail went cold. Mia slipped along the hill's edge while the badger hurled itself after her, teeth grinding. The smell of her own blood made Mia lightheaded, and the hill threatened to upturn beneath her paws. She shook the spots from her eyes and kept running. There was nowhere to hide on this hill, no mole burrows, no brambles, but now that Mia's legs were a little longer, she could reach high spots a badger's stubby legs could not. She wove sidelong through the scraggly branches until she could no longer feel its gray breath on her heels. She bounded over the lip of the hill, darted toward the tallest rock she could find, and leaped on top of it. She whirled and watched for the skull to come huffing over the hill's edge. Her tail throbbed. Her heart could barely keep up with her breath. The badger wasn't coming. Uli. Mia leaped off the rock and sprinted back to the hilltop. The badger was barreling toward her friend, who lay at the hill's base, eyes closed, forepaw twitching. She would never reach him in time. Uli! She cried through the lashing rain. Uli, wake up! He didn't stir. The badger went after him like a mudslide. Mia ran along the hill's crest until she was right over them. She leaped. The hill fell away beneath her paws as she soared down, rain hissing past her ears. She struck the mud and then rolled, whipping through branches. On her final roll, she managed to get her paws underneath her, then bounded toward her friend. She realized she had never wanted anything more than for Uli to survive. She realized this as the badger seized him by the throat and shook his body like a loose rabbit skin. With one last leap, Mia caught the badger by the ear and ripped as hard as she could. The badger roared in pain, dropping Uli's body. It thrashed blindly in every direction while Mia backed away. When the badger regained its senses, it fixed its black eyes on her, licking Uli's blood from its gray teeth. Mia snarled and began to circle the creature, remembering her fighting lessons. Stand with your side facing the enemy. Keep your legs stiff and your hackles sharp. Try to get behind them. The badger lashed, and its fang caught Mia's forehead. She stifled a cry but continued to circle. The badger attacked again, and Mia just managed to lift her paw in time to feel one of her claws ripped out. She screamed and limped away, wanting to put as much space between her and the badger as she could. But then she saw Uling lying in the mud, and she hesitated. I wonder what it last ate, the badger grumbled, licking his lips. Hopefully not a shrew. I do hate shrews. Blood trickled into Mia's eyes. The badger was going to tear her apart, piece by piece. Thunder tore through the air and then faded into a growl. Mia turned to find a shadow at the top of the hill. It leaped over her, and the badger recoiled, snarling and spitting at its new opponent. The badger distracted, Mia limped to the bottom of the hill. She found Uli under one of the scraggly branches. His tongue hung, bloody, out of his mouth. Uli, please talk to me. She licked the blood from his muzzle, and his eyes made the smallest of cracks. He hefted his head and sniffed at the badger's gray drool on his coat. Oh, what stings? Mia laughed and then sobbed in relief. Uli's muzzle clamped shut as he gazed beyond her toward the top of the hill. She followed his eyes. The fight was lit by lightning flashes. Jaws crunched ears. Claws sliced clouds of fur. Black droplets spattered the mud. It was a fox. A fox had saved their lives. Should we help him? Mia asked. When Uli didn't answer, she turned and found him gone. She sniffed through the rain, following his flower bud scent around the side of the hill. She smelled the cave before she saw it, deep and cold and wet. Uli? Mia called into the darkness. Uli, what are you doing? We have to help him. If all three of us just... No, Uli said. His whispers echoed. He'll kill me. Mia squinted into the cave. Why would he kill you? He just saved our lives. He saved your life. You are being silly, she said. There are already enough scary things in the world without adding other foxes to the list, especially ones in your own family. Not other foxes, Willie said. Mr. Scratch. A roar echoed from the top of the hill. Mia peered around the cave's overhang. The fight was almost won. The fox struck at the badger, driving it down the hill. It's blood and parts, the badger spat. Meat and fur and nothing else. The fox stood strong until the badger faded into the gray rain, west toward where the humans dwelled. Once it was gone, the fox collapsed to his side. Mia took a step toward him. Mia, Uli whispered from the cave. Don't, please. He's just a fox, Uli, she said, and hobbled up the hill. The rain slowed to a drizzle. The fox lay still. His chest rose and fell, huffing fog. Blood ran down his coat. He seemed so helpless, like he couldn't hurt a mouse. Mia took a step closer, and the fox rolled onto his stomach, wincing. Ah, there you are, he said. I thought you'd fled. She took a step back. The fur on his face was so black it made his amber eyes glow like a sunset. His muzzle was long and powerful, and moon-bright fangs stood sharp outside his mouth. She swallowed. How'd you beat that, Badger? The fox began to clean his wounds. I almost didn't. Were it not for your bravery, I would have been able to surprise him. He grinned at her. If I didn't know better, I'd say you'd been fighting badgers since the day you were born. Mia's whiskers twitched with embarrassment. What? That was nothing. The fox continued to clean his wound. What's your name? She asked. With another wince, the fox pushed upright and bowed his head. My name is Win. Mia smirked. So not Mr. Scratch. That must have been a name Wooly came up with. And yours? Win asked. Mia. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mia. The air became laced with lilac, making her nose twitch. When she was a kid, the thought of making territory had made her gag, but now it confused her. If this scent was meant to keep other foxes out, why did it smell so pretty? Win took a step toward her, and she took a step away. He smiled, his fangs white and gleaming. I was only going to clean your wound. It seems that creature hurt your forehead and your throat. My claw and my tail too, she thought, but she didn't go any closer. You are welcome to remain here, Wind said, gazing toward the towering rocks. It's a dark night for a fox kid all alone. Mia resisted the urge to look at the cave. If Wooly just come out of hiding, he'd realize there was nothing to be afraid of. I can't stay, she said, looking north beyond the rock pile toward the great chasm that broke the land. I need to find my mom. Then you're in luck, Wind said. My scent draws vixens to these rocks. If your mother comes within 1,000 foxtails of this place, rest assured she'll end up here. Oh, Mia said. I didn't know that. She sniffed the landscape, the marshes and the forest in the south, the smoky hills to the east, the chasm to the north that wrapped around to the cave in the west. Finding her mom felt as impossible as finding a whisker in a field. Also, Mia was hurt. She had no idea how long it would be before she could hurt again. Moonlight broke through the clouds, making the black stones of the tower shine. I'll stay, she said, just for tonight. Good, Wind said. You'll find a place to rest near the rock summit. The stones will divert the rain, and there are vixens to clean your wounds. He turned to leave, then paused. His nose tilted toward the cave. Sniff, sniff. His muzzle wrinkled only a moment, and then Wind vanished into the evening. Mia considered returning to the cave to wish Oli a good night, but thought better of it. Let him pout, she said, and began her long climb to the rocks. 3. Mia sat on a high stone perch and watched another storm sweep over the Lilac Kingdom. Rain cascaded off the stones, stirring the mist in the chasm and slicking the scraggly hill into a muddy waterfall that flooded into the cave. She tried not to worry about Uli. It had been 3 days since Mia had climbed the rock pile, and she still hadn't had a chance to visit her friend. Wind was always watching from his roost that overlooked the vixen's quarters. Come away from the rain, child, a voice said behind her. It was Odette, whose fur was as red as raspberries. You haven't finished your squirrel, Heart. This was Mercy, whose fur was as red as elk's blood. Mia slipped into the faint light of the rocky overhang and folded her paws around her heart. She took tiny bites, trying not to think about how hungry Uli must be down in that cave. It wasn't her fault if he wanted to cower in the wet darkness while she remained dry beneath the rocks. There, Odette said, eyes reflecting the storm. Isn't that better? Sure, Mia said, licking the blood from her beard. Mercy lay quiet in the shadows. The vixens of the Lilac Kingdom had a strange glazed look in their eyes. Mia tried not to look directly at them. They reminded her of Mr. Todd's eyes. Still, the vixens were kind to her. Odette had cleaned her fur and soothed her wounds, and Mercy had shown her where the food was buried. Mia's claws and forehead were feeling better, but the tail and throat were slow to heal. She had spent the days napping and cleaning her wounds and feasting on squirrels and serpents, but she was starting to feel restless. When does Wind go hunting? She asked once her squirrel heart was finished. Whisper, child, Mercy said, glancing up toward the Wind's roost. Our husband's senses are as sharp as starlight, Odette said. Oh, Mia said, lowering her voice, though she wasn't sure why. Sorry. Why do you want to know? Odette asked. Mia wanted to check on Uli. He had to be cold and hungry and wondering where she was, but she didn't dare sneak down to the cave in case Wind saw her and asked where she was going. She had to come to trust the Lord of the Lilac Kingdom. He had provided her food and shelter and asked nothing in return. But if she led Wind to Uli might never forgive her. I just wanted to hunt something, Mia said. My tail's starting to feel better, and these squirrel hearts are too gushy. No need to worry your ears, child, Odette said. Name a thing, said Mercy, and Wind will hunt it for you. Once our stores are empty, of course, Odette said. Mia looked at the piles of dead squirrels in the corner of their quarters. It would be days before they were eaten. She said, I also need to find my mom." "Why, child?" Mercy asked. "The lilac scent will draw her here." "Right," Mia said, looking away from the vixen's glazed eyes. "Right." She didn't ask, "But what if it doesn't?" "Settle, child," Odette said. "No need to rush. You don't realize you are in a good place." "The best place," Mercy said. Mia glanced through the cracks in the quarters across the lilac kingdom. There was no sand, no sipping creek, no weedy cover. Only rocks and gushy hearts and endless storms. "I like this place," Mia said, not wanting to sound ungrateful. "No," Mercy said, "you don't." "But you will," said Odette. 4. That night, Mia waited for the vixens to fall asleep and then crept out of the quarters, as she had every night before. She watched the hill for a long time. Somewhere wolves howled. When the moon was high, a shadow slipped from Wind's roost, stalked through the scraggly branches, and then vanished into the mists. "Finally," Mia whispered. She grabbed a squirrel hunch from the stores and trotted toward the caves, passing an upright stone. "Good evening," the stone said. Mia jolted and dropped the hunch. Moonlight shined on the black fur of Wind's face. He perched on the rock above her, throwing a shadow, long and sharp. She tried to laugh. "I thought you were a rock." Wind only stared at her, and Mia felt a chill. She could have sworn she'd seen his shadow padding down the hill, but it must have been a trick of the moonlight, or the slippery lilac scent. "And where are you headed this night?" he asked. "Oh, I thought I smelled my mom." She pawed at the squirrel hunch. "This is for her." Wind leaped from the rock onto the path between her and the cave. "I would advise you remain close to your quarters. The clouds are on the move tonight, and dark things go sniffing when the moon is obscured." He smiled his bright fangs. "If a vixen comes anywhere near this place, rest assured I will tell you." "Oh," Mia said, trying to sound relieved. "Good." She started back toward the vixen's quarters, but then turned right back around again. "But I have to leave at some point. I can't just stay here forever, waiting for Mom to show up. That would be dumb." "Of course," Wind bowed his head. "And you're welcome to leave any time you wish." The moon made an unnatural flicker on his eyes. "But the snows will fall soon, and all sands will be trapped beneath the ice." "Oh," Mia said, watching mist coil in the chasm. "Right." He stepped so close that she could smell the blood from his last kill. "I would have you remain here through the winter months, Mia, for your safety." "Oh, no thanks. Your first winter can be very difficult. Many don't survive." "Good to know," she said. Miss Fix had told her the same thing. Winter was the fiercest predator, but that was the least of Mia's worries right then. She still needed to bring woolly food and clean his wounds. She still needed to heal so they could continue north and find her mom. "Your muzzle is whitening nicely," Wind said. "Good coat, strong teeth. You will make a fine vixen in the years to come," he smiled. "And one who can fight off badgers as well." Mia avoided his eyes. "Maybe, but I still want to see my mom." Wind leaped back to his perch, scanning his kingdom. "I am unable to guarantee your safety if you stray from your quarters. Some of the rocks are unstable. A cave winds through the base of this hill. The ground could collapse beneath you." Mia stared at her paws. This made her want to check on Wooly all the more. Wind nodded toward the squirrel's hunch. "I would also advise you not to bring food out into the open. Dark things lurk in the mists at the edge of this kingdom, and in the cave, the smell could draw them out." Mia stared at the squirrel hunch and thought, "Wooly must be so hungry." Then she picked it up and choked it down in a gulp. Wind continued to stare at her. She cleared her throat. "Well, back to the stones with me, I guess." She turned to leave, then paused. "Only—" "Yes?" She remembered Mercy's and Odette's word and turned around. "I have this craving." He bawed, "Name it. You are my guest." She tried to think of something difficult to find. Peaches and centipedes, she said. Win's eyes widened a little. Then he smiled. I'll see what I can do. Thanks, Mia said. You're the best. Later that night, once Win's tail had slipped down the hill, Mia crept out of her quarters and along the northern chasm. Her paw accidentally nudged a pebble over the edge, and it whirled down, clacking once against the cliff side before plunging into the mist. She shuddered and continued down the hill, into the cave. Uli, she whispered, sloshing through a paw-deep water. A soft wind murmured through the darkness. There was a shuffling above, then a small splash. I'm here, he whispered. Hi, Mia said. She couldn't stop her stinging tail from wagging. How are you? I couldn't smell you. Are you okay? Shh, Uli said. His shining eyes slowly looked up. Mia followed them to the cave's ceiling. The shadows there shivered. Bats, thousands of them, folded in tiny bundles. Oh, she whispered, flattening her ears. Bats were sharp, diseased things. If disturbed, they would pour down in a black avalanche, plunging their tiny fangs into her and Wooly until they were bled dry. She sloshed forward as quietly as she could. How's your neck doing? It's fine, he said. When he didn't say more, she smirked. I'm okay too, you know. Thanks for asking. Right, he said. Sorry. Wooly hopped into the faint light, making little splashes. There came another rustle from above, and the foxes cowered, eyes wide, waiting to see if the bats would awaken. When the rustling fell still, Mia studied her friend. His fur was covered in mud. It was no wonder she couldn't smell him. No, I'm sorry, she said. Sorry it took me so long to get down here. Wind doesn't leave the rocks very often, and he won't let me take food out of the vixen's quarters. It's okay, Oli said. I'm used to being hungry. It was so pathetic Mia wasn't sure whether to whimper or laugh. You should come up to the rocks, she whispered brightly. There's lots of food and nice ladies that clean your face. Oli shook his head. If Mr. Scratch sees me, he'll kill me. Right, Mia said. But what if he doesn't? What if your dad's not as bad as you think? He fed me and gave me a good place to sleep. He even said I could stay here through the winter if I wanted. Easy for you to say, Wooly said. You still have all your paws. Mia huffed, irritated. No one cares about that. And your dad's name is Win, by the way, not Mr. Scratch. Wooly trembled. He hadn't really stopped trembling. Mia gave up the argument. Wooly was afraid of everything, and there was nothing she could do to talk him out of it. A drip echoed somewhere deep in the darkness, swiveling her ears. How far back does it go? I don't know, Oli said. I haven't left this spot far, I think. Another drip echoed deep in the cave's throat. A breeze blew into the cave, and Mia thought she smelled lilac. I should get back before the vixens wake up, she said. She gave Oli's muzzle a lick, but at least let me clean some of this mud. Don't, he said, wrenching his head away. He'll smell me. Mia pulled back, a little hurt. Fine, she said. We'll leave tomorrow. My throat's feeling better, and my claws almost healed enough for walking. Not sure my tail will ever grow a white tip, though. Uli stared into the water around his forepaw. I don't want to leave. Mia gave her head a shake. Wait, huh? She spoke a little too loudly, and the ceiling shivered, making them both crouch. Once the bats quieted, Uli's eyes shined toward the entrance. My mom's up here. I can smell her. Mia quirked her head. You sure? Yeah, I didn't think she'd come here so soon. My sisters must have left to start their dance. Either that or something happened to them. Mia thought of the two vixens in the roost, Odette and Mercy, their glazed eyes, their strange manners. Could one of them really be Uli's mom? I hate to say it, Uli, Mia said, but the vixens up there seem, well, happy. Just a weird sort of happy, she didn't say. They're not, Uli said. Mia narrowed her eyes. Are you sure you're not just being selfish? Uli stared at his forepaw. What's your mom's name? Odette? Mercy? I don't know, he said. I just called her Mom. Okay, what she look like? Like me? Mia examined his muddy face. Little black wisps were forming on his muzzle, and his sunset eyes were blazing away the last of the blue. She almost told him he was starting to look more like his dad than anything, but then thought better of it. Oh, Willie said. I just remembered something. My mom has the top of one of her ears missing. Great, Mia said. I'll go see which vixen is missing part of an ear and then tell her you're here. We can all live together. But, Willie whispered, what if he follows her down here and he finds me? Well, Ollie, Mia said, either we leave or we stay. You can't have it both ways. When he didn't answer, she sloshed toward the cave mouth. I'll go find your mom and come for you next time Win goes hunting. We'll all sneak out of here, no problem. Uli did not look encouraged there in the darkness. Come on, she said. Have I ever led you astray? And remember, following that raccoon's tail in the swamp doesn't count. That was all you. He sighed in defeat. Sleep tight, she whispered. Don't let the cave bats bite. As the horizon grew hazy with dawn, Mia crept back to the vixen's quarters. And where have you been this night? Win stared down at her from his high roost. Good morning, she said quickly. Did you get that food I asked for? He nodded toward the ground at a shriveled apple filled with worms. Mia wrinkled her muzzle. Ew! You did not answer my question, Win said. Mia looked toward the chasm to the north. I was just trying to figure out where I wanted to search for my mom. Now that I'm all healed up, I'll probably leave tonight or tomorrow. Win narrowed his eyes. I know, Mia said, rolling hers. Dark things in the mists. Don't want to draw their attention and stuff. The creatures are not the only thing you should fear. What do you mean? He sniffed down the hill. I believe I've smelled an intruder, a male fox, young. Win's sunset eyes flashed toward her. Have you smelled anything? Nope, Mia said. A growl crackled in his throat. Just out of curiosity, she said. What would you do if a fox did come here? Chase him off like you did the badger? I would kill him, Win said. Oh, Mia said, gulping. That's a relief. She wanted to ask if that included his own son, but that would give Uli away. Win leaped from his perch, landing so close Mia had to move her tail. With all of these creatures sneaking into my kingdom, badgers, foxes, I'm going to advise that you delay the search for your mother. But if I wait too long, I might lose her. Perhaps, Win said. Is that not what growing up is all about? A heat spread to Mia's ears. He didn't know that she'd had to leave her den too soon, that she never got to say goodbye. How come you want me to stay so bad? She asked. He chuckled. It is you who wants to stay. You just don't realize it yet. He patted circles around her, and Mia turned her paws, keeping him in sight. You have everything you could ever want here, Mia, Win said. Food, safety, vixens to call sisters. If you desire anything else, all you have to do is name it. I told you like 3 times already, she said. I want to find my mom. He continued to pace. This is the season you would have left your den, is it not? Yeah, so? Your eyes are nearly golden. You're now able to make choices for yourself. That's true, she said, and I want to leave. Win stopped pacing with a sigh. Perhaps I was mistaken. It seems you're still too immature to understand how dangerous it is out there. Fortunately, I am an adult who can make choices for you, and I choose to have you stay. The sun broke over the horizon and beamed on Win's ashen face. Mia's breath caught. She had seen the Lord of the Lilac Kingdom only by moonlight, but in the light of the sun, his skull seemed crooked in his fur. His fangs held a yellow tint. One eye rolled ever so slightly in the wrong direction. A coldness crept through Mia's bones. You said I could leave any time I wanted. Win laughed quietly. You can, but only if you can outrun me. Her body went numb. I must go and resent the border, he said, padding along the chasm's edge. He looked back and smiled, showing his yellow fangs. I will give you time to get used to the idea of remaining in my kingdom. He descended, and Mia sat in shock. Soon, great webs of lilac sand crept up the rocks, making her eyes water and her stomach roll. She had to get Wooly out of there before wind found him. She remembered what Wooly said about his mom's clipped ear and slipped back into the vixen's quarters. Good morning, child, Odette said. Is another storm coming? Asked Mercy. Mia's jaw clamped shut. Both vixens were missing the top of one ear. 5. As Mercy and Odette went about their day, Mia snuck glances their way. One of these vixens was Wooly's mom. But which one? Their fur was different colors, elf's blood for Mercy and raspberry for Odette. But Wooly's coat was darker with blackberry tones and the muzzle growing black with autumn. He didn't share either of their ears, noses, or eyes. If Mia told the wrong vixen about Wooly, Win would find out. She was sure of it. Come bask in the sun, Odette called to her. Yes, join us, said Mercy, before the rain returns. Mia lay on the open rock, eyes cracked, watching the vixens for Wooly's mannerisms. But they both made the same relaxed movements and spoke with the same quiet kindness. You look upset, child, Odette said. Yes, Mercy said. What's on your mind? I had a nightmare last night, Mia said, about ears. How'd you lose the tops of yours? Mercy gave a soft smile. No need to be frightened, dear. It won't hurt too much. Mia's ears flattened. What do you mean? Odette pricked her tipless ear proudly. This is Win's way of making us as part of his kingdom. It means we get to remain here forever. Mia gulped. The tips of her ears started to ache. Don't worry, Mercy said. He'll do it when you aren't looking. And it heals quickly. Mia's head stirred to make sure the Lord of the Lilac Kingdom wasn't sneaking up behind her. Here was another reason to figure out which vixen was Wooly's mom and escape as quickly as possible. Mia wanted to get her ears far away from Mr. Scratch. She cleared her throat. Wooly had mentioned he came from the boulder field. Where did you both live before you came here? We came to Win as young vixens, Mercy said. But not before our first winter, said Odette. You should be honored. I am, Mia lied. What could she do? If neither vixen looked like Wooly, and they wouldn't tell her about their ears or if they came from somewhere bouldery, then how was she supposed to tell which of them was? Mia's whiskers perked. I'm hungry, she said. Are you guys hungry? She headed toward the food stores. But instead of walking, she curled her front left leg into her chest and hopped. What happened to your paw, child? Odette asked. What, this? Mia said, looking at it. I just stepped on a sharp rock. Don't let Win see you like that, Mercy said. He despises weakness, said Odette. I won't, Mia said, continuing to hop. Thanks. She'd seen exactly what she needed. At Mia's first hop, Odette's lips had curled ever so slightly, but Mercy's eyes had softened. That night, Mia waited until Win was tucked in his roost, and then crept from her corner and gently nuzzled Mercy's side. The vixen awoke with a jerk, and Mia said, Shh. Mercy curled her lips into a soft smile. What is it, dear? I need to tell you something, Mia whispered. Outside. Mercy's eye made a little upward pull toward the Win's roost. Whatever it is, child, surely you can say it here. Mia glanced at Odette, sleeping in the corner. She second-guessed herself. Was Mercy trying to keep them hidden from Win's eyes, or was she saying there were no secrets in the Lilac Kingdom? Wooly's here, Mia whispered. He's hiding in the caves. Mercy tilted her head, as if she had no idea what Mia was talking about. He's waiting for us to come get him, Mia whispered, so we can all get out of here. Mercy's smile didn't so much as twitch. Mia needed her pause, feeling as if she'd just made a terrible mistake. Go to sleep, child, Mercy said, laying her head back down. Go to sleep. Mia returned to her corner, but sleep would not come until the quarters flooded with lilac scent, making her eyes droop and then fall shut. 6. The next morning, sunlight bled between the rocks, stirring Mia's eyelids. All was quiet. The winds were still. Something was wrong. She rolled upright and found the quarters empty. No Odette, no Mercy. Mia leaped to her paws and slipped outside. Forget waiting for the perfect moment. She was going to get Uli from the cave and leave the Lilac Kingdom right then, even if she had to drag him by his scruff. She rounded the chasm's edge and then stopped when she saw Mercy. The vixen was dragging Uli's freshly blooded body up the hill. He was alive and whimpering. Mia's heart started to pound. A snarl ignited in her throat. Would she be able to beat Mercy in a fight? Well, well, a voice said behind her. Look what Mercy found. Mia turned to find Win. Did you know about this? He asked. I... She did not, Mercy said, dropping Uli's scruff near the rocks. I smelled them in the cave when the winds fell still. Uli tried to push up onto his forepaw, but then collapsed. His fur was slick with blood. Mia tried to meet Mercy's eye, but then the vixen refused to look at her. What will you do with him? Mercy asked Win. Win said. I will do nothing. I told you that it must be the mother who takes care of useless kids. Mercy gave Uli a pitying look. If I kill him, she asked Win, will you let me return to the boulder fields and check on my girls? Teeth clenched around Mia's heart. Win sneered. I suppose the cripple's death would make up for your keeping him a secret. Very well. Mercy looked at Uli. I'm sorry, my son. Uli trembled, blinking the blood from his eyes. Ma, please, I'll be good. I'll leave and never come back. Mercy shook her head. I can't spare your life and lose your sisters. Your father made me leave them when he discovered I'd betrayed him. They are all alone back at the den and still need guidance before... Her voice trembled and failed. Be still now. Uli looked so tired, like he had given up. He squeezed his eyes shut as his mother opened her jaws around his throat. Stop! Mia cried out. You can't kill your own son. Mercy finally looked at her, jaw quavering. Mia whirled on Win. Why do you want Uli dead? He's not hurting anyone. Win curled his lip. So, you did know he was hiding here. Mia's legs started to shake. She couldn't help it. Win huffed. The runt was born deformed. He nodded toward Mercy. This wife took pity on it and gave it some of the stronger kids' rations without my knowledge. His voice grew quiet and dangerous. I do not abide other male foxes in my kingdom, especially crippled ones. So that's why Uli had never told Mia about his past. His family had tried to get rid of him, and he was ashamed, but she couldn't think about that now. If she could just make Win angry, she could get him to chase her, giving Uli and his mom a chance to escape. Guess you're just afraid of your own son then, Mia said to Win. His smile sharpened. You're joking. Nuh-uh, she said, starting to back downhill. You're worried he'll steal all the vixens. Win laughed. His paws didn't budge. What vixen would ever done with that? I would, Mia said, avoiding Uli's eyes. Win laughed outright. What, and have a litter of wall-eyed, wobbling kids with crooked ears and dangling tongues? He wasn't coming after her. She had to get meaner. Anything is better than you, Mia said. Excuse me? The words rolled out of Win, gravelly and snow. He took a step toward her, making puddles of Mia's legs, but she kept backing up. You heard me, she said. Uli is a far greater fox than you'll ever be. He may be missing a foreleg, but at least he isn't missing a heart. The sound Win made might have been a laugh had it not been so filled with rage. He stepped closer as Mia continued to back away. Also, she said, your scent, it smells like shoe butts. Win stopped walking. His eyes flashed upward, and he smiled. Well, I do hope you'll grow accustomed to it in the years to come. There was a rush from above. There was a rush from above, and then teeth were around Mia's throat, pinning her to the ground. Mia struggled, but Odette's jaws clenched tighter, making hard to breathe. Win patted close. Watch, he said, his snarling lips near Mia's. Watch what happens to crippled kids who enter my kingdom. Odette wrenched Mia's neck so her eyes were pointed toward Uli. He only shuddered as his mother again opened her jaws around his throat. Wait, Mia said. I'll stay. Don't, Mia, Uli said pathetically. I will, Mia cried to Win. I'll stay here if you let Uli go. I won't put up a fight. I'll even say nice things about you. Silly girl, Win said. What makes you think I can't have both? Before Mia could even blink, Mercy seized Wooly by the throat and shook him until he fell still. Then she reared back her head and hurled his body into the chasm. Mia's blood ran cold as her friend vanished over the edge. Her ears twitched in the silence. No hiccups echoed from the bottom. No sounds at all. Odette released Mia's throat. There, child, she said. Wasn't that easy? Win lunged toward Mercy, snarling. Why did you do that? Mercy snarled, defiant. So you couldn't eat him. Her eyes flashed to Mia. Run, girl, run now! Without thinking, Mia leaped up. Odette lunged after her, but Mia dodged around her snapping jaws and bounded clear of the rocks. Mia ran from the Lilac Kingdom, down the hill and east, along the cliffs. Soon she could feel Win's ashen breath huffing behind her, his jaws nipping at her tail. She had to lose him. Then she could find her mom, the only thing that could make Mia feel better after watching Wooly's lifeless body fall into the chasm. Win snapped, just missing Mia's tail. He was too quick for her. She couldn't beat him in a fight. How could she lose him when there was no place big enough for her to hide? Mia thought of something. A trick Miss Figgs had never taught. She continued east, past the cliffs and up the scramble to the hills where the humans dwelled. Keeping Win close on her tail, she pricked her ears and sniffed the air. She listened for the wet grinding of teeth, sniffed for the gray breath and the putrid black scent. If she could lead Win to the badger, it would fight Win for her. She ran, sniffing, around the base of the hill. All she could smell was ash from the human's fire. She turned her paws uphill. If she could just make it to the top, she'd be able to snap. Mia jerked to a painful stop, her muzzle thudding to the grass. Her eyes blurred on the hills, the clouds, the rain. Screams filled her ears. She realized they were coming from her. Something had caught her hind paw. Her eyes refocused, and she saw the silver root. Its jaws had crunched her back toes, grinding her nerves together. She tried to shake it off, but her tendons rolled and grated, and she nearly passed out. A shadow stepped to the top of the hill. It seems you found yourself in quite the predicament, Win said, smiling. Shame you chose not to remain in my kingdom where it was safe. Mia lunged at him, but her teeth missed his nose by a hair's breadth. White pain shot through her leg, and Mia dropped to the ground, breath shuddering. Win clicked his tongue. Well, I should return. He turned back toward his kingdom, but then gave Mia a pitying look. I do hope the trappers collect you soon. I have watched the sun melt a vixen down to skin and bones, and seen the ants eat her eyes while she was still alive. With that, his tail trailed off like smoke through the rain. Mia let the whimpers melt out of her. She tried to shake her paw free, but the trap refused to let go. She collapsed on her side, tears mixing with the rain in her whiskers. Uli was dead. Soon some human would come and collect Mia's skin, and that would be that. Ma, she said into the rain, if you're coming back, now would be the time. The storm continued to rage. The clouds above the antler wood grumbled and sneered. The little one's heart felt trapped between bits. Was Uli really dead? Was Mia going to be eaten by ants? Was Mr. Scratch going to win? Hey, the beta said. When did Mel leave? The little one looked to where her alpha brother had been sitting. There was nothing but a pea puddle. 2 little foxes. You have to keep going, the beta said into the cavern. Uli can't be dead, can he? The storyteller sighed. No fox kid is safe in the wild, no matter how sweet, no matter how brave. The runt's ears perked. She thought she'd heard the voice in the cavern pinch a little, as if even the storyteller's heart broke at the telling. As for those who create the horror in this world, they have their own stories, and as to whether they feel any guilt for their deeds, well...